get into one of my cars, you get in the win.
I'm Chris Asaki, Creative Director for Forza Motorsports. We are bringing new racing dynamics, visual fidelity, and gameplay detail to every track. This includes weather, 24-hour day-night cycles, and track evolution. More tracks are coming to Forza Motorsport after our launch on October 10th, including past favorites and brand new challenges to keep the competition fresh and exciting. We can't wait to share more. See you at the starting line.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Hey guys, this is Matt Hagan, three-time funny car world champion, and you're watching Drafting the Circus.
A lot of folks here today at Texas Motor Speedway.
There is a noticeable buzz. Even the fans realize what's at stake.
We got a hot one today in Texas, but it's going to be a great race.
Stupid hot. Don't be afraid to ask for a bag or a bottle.
Let's kick the butt. Let's stay together. Let's communicate. Good job of starting off this weekend on the right foot. Let's lock them and do what we need to do.
Pace car, hard left-hand turn.
Hey, pace car's off here. Coming to green.
Green.
Green flag is in the air.
My entry, you don't want to get loose there. Good work. Stay this one. Just feel high nose in traffic.
Check up. All right, roll. Inside. Tires flew off, guys. Correct. What the f***? You'll not say anything before I get to turn 3.
Looks like the wheels broke, but we didn't see anything in here. We'll talk about it, obviously.
Kyle Busch jumping out of the throttle. He's going to lose the 4th spot.
No, it does not feel right. I swear, I just need to stop trying and just ride around.
All right, stay in the gas.
Kyle Busch spins up the racetrack.
Hold the brake.
His day is done with a hard trip against the turn 1 and 2 safer barrier.
He's back around the whole track here. Just watch him.
Currently driving his car backwards on the racetrack.
Signature move.
Got cars coming on the pit road.
Calling out.
Bottom of 3, bottom.
Whoa, Kenny Hamlin.
Just pull out in front of everybody. Left front's killed. We're freaking done.
I don't really see much regular tire damage right now. I think we can easily stay out.
A one-lap sprint to the end of stage 1.
Green flag,
Short side door, quarter, bumper. Check your mirror. You're clear down.
Tyler Reddick shot out of a cannon on the restart.
I'm back to green checker here.
That'll be lap 80, stage 1 in the books.
I'm in. Good job.
That's right, as everybody checked up, Martin Truex Jr. got tagged from behind.
His 6-year-old here. What the hell is he doing? Caution down.
I got ran into from behind.
47 laps to go here in stage number 2 as the green flag waves again. Wallace on the inside.
Just doesn't really take off. Tight back here. Probably dead traffic. He passed the car. It's a lot better track with this. Talk to us if you got a problem here. Just duck behind the slowest cars on the racetrack. Next one car, please. Turn dead sideways. Going into 1. Doing really good, man. Just stay with it. Move, man.
Kyle Larson is on the charge. Young Buddy to the top side of the racetrack, door to door at a 2.
Off me. Nice and very there, Nigga Burns. Don't let it go, then let me go. Yeah, no doubt. How the this Toyota teammate? How?
Kyle Larson will look at the green and white checkered flag, and that means he is the winner of stage number 2.
The leader, you started. I'm good here. Yes, sir. Let's go. Keep hitting him. Don't stop. 45 hitting. 3, 2, 1. This time. Easy. Get it straightened up here.
Yellow's out. Yellow. Are you kidding me? We get a yellow for the 99 spinning on pit road. He's clear. What the hell?
Green light flashing on pit lane. Kyle Larson is going to lead him down.
3, 2, 1, hold. Hard, on the way, go. You beat him off pit road. Good work. Good job. You just called you too fast. Section 2. No way, son of a... All right. 9, good stinger. 6 is on you.
William Byron is doing a fantastic job trying to hold that inside line. Still side by side with Busher. It's the battle for 6.
Corner, clear. Take it. Clean air, drive away. 40 more. 40.
Got one spinning here in front of you. Check up here.
Heading to turn 1, Bubba Wallace gets a big jump on the outside.
Just you and him here. Just you and him. Still just you and him. Tight on you here. Loose on you here. Keep coming.
Larson gets sideways, and he spins underneath Bubba Wallace.
You alright? Yep. Sorry. Green. Still there. All clear. Clear by half behind.
Front stretch, Ryan Blaney and about 4 or 5 cars involved in an incident.
Think I'll make it 30 degrees. The other way. Starts on you. Green. 24 split bottom. Still there, barely bottom.
They're still door to door. Here comes William Byron. He'll make it 3 wide.
Outside 14. 23 blocking you. All you. Clear. All right, back in rhythm here. Don't throw it away. Bubba, focus. Gotta focus. Let's go.
It is smooth sailing for William Byron.
Nothing coming. Huge gap.
William Byron cruising down to the checkered flag. He wins at Texas.
Hell yeah, boys. Awesome job. Playoffs, baby. Let's go. Woo! 300. Hell yeah. Woo! Hell yeah, boys. Great execution. Good job.
Driver, start your
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to the Drafting Circus program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we discuss everything racing from this past weekend and preview next week. Joining me in the studio, Richard Uden, Levi. What do you say, fellas?
How's it going? Good evening, gentlemen.
Good to have you here. So first off, mention the sponsors. We've got Luis Torres Multimedia. Luis, once again on assignment.
Busy son of a gun, that kid.
His gig with the Seattle Mariners has him at a lot of baseball games this day and age, but you know, it puts money in his paycheck, money in his bank account. So also Xbox Forza Motorsport, that game comes out October 10th. The Ferrari film, Ryan Blaney early detection, and then you saw the race highlights from NASCAR Texas, and we'll start there. William Byron for the win. I think last week on the show, I didn't know who to pick. Somebody told me I think Luis told me, I just picked William Byron. It's a good pick. And sure enough, that one dropped into my lap. You know, he kind of, I want to say he was strong all day, but he was the benefit of some other people's mistakes towards the end there on the last restart. And it was a certain Bubba Wallace, who, Lee, I know you're pretty fond of, who had a pretty good car all day, won the pole, led a lot of laps, but just didn't quite get it done in the end. He got into Kyle Larson at one point in time during the race, and they're still kind of up in the air what happened there. Everyone wants to of course, kick Bubba to the curb and make that his fault. Although the race that I was watching, it looked like Larson just kind of just lost it, right? So but Lee, you get a chance to watch the race?
I watched bits and pieces of it. I had a kind of busy day, but I watched bits and pieces. I did watch the wreck, and I mean, trying to be the most unbiased guy here, it did look like Kyle kind of touched the rear bumper there, the rear quarter of Bubba, and went around. I mean, but who knows? Everybody's going to blame Bubba just because it's Bubba, I think. But yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah, well, Bubba recovered for third. I believe Ross Chastain second.
Yep.
So keep both those guys kind of farther away from the cut line in the chase that we're in the middle of, or the playoffs. I still want to call it the chase. At least I don't still call it the Winston Cup. At least I got that one out.
We don't call it the Bud Shootout anymore.
Yeah. So, Richard, your thoughts, Texas?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good race. Bubba had a lot of pace there. Got on the pole and led a lot of laps early on there. The 5 car with Kyle Larson was obviously probably in race trim the quickest car in the field all day. But he made that mistake trying to get underneath Bubba there, and I don't think there was any contact. I think, even Kyle Larson himself admitted that he got, he just got loose and spam coming out of the, going into turn one there, and William Byron sort of, almost like Scott Dixon-esque, sort of picked up the pieces and managed to go home with the winner's trophy there. So, fair play to him there. That locks him into the round of 8. Certainly, for some of the guys on the outside of the bubble looking in pre-race, or guys that were down at the bottom there, Ross Chastain had a really strong race. Bubba had a strong race. Tyler Reddick had a pretty strong race to again push them back up, near that cut line or on the right side of the cut line. So, the next 2 races this weekend at Talladega this weekend, and then moving forward into the road course at Charlotte on the Roval. Going to be 2 pretty interesting weekends there to see if these guys that had bad days. You think of guys like Kyle Busch who wrecked out in the 8 car there. Pretty poor weekend for him. If he doesn't have a strong result at Talladega, he's really going to be on the back foot going into Charlotte. And he's won at road courses, but he's certainly not the strongest road course guy out of the current round of 12 field.
No, as we look at the guys that are on the cut line or below the cut line, Kyle Busch is 12th and last right there. Above him, Ryan Blaney, who had
another bad weekend,
another pretty miserable day there. Tyler Reddick in 10th, and then Bubba Wallace in 9th. So those are your guys below the cut line. Right above the line is Kyle Larson, who he's in danger of sliding down there if he has another incident where he doesn't finish.
Talladega, who knows? Talladega
can take out half the field in one fell swoop. Yeah.
You can have 2 or 3 of those guys in the playoffs. They all finish in 30th and below, and that's a huge. Especially if it happens early on in the first stage, they miss out on all the stage points, which obviously is a benefit to them as well in these playoffs. So
certainly,
it could be a huge swing. Coming out of Talladega, heading into Charlotte.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how your fortunes could change so quickly, because it was right before Bristol that we were kind of postulating that Martin Truex was really in danger of elimination, and now he's pretty solid 5th place in the points.
Yeah, he didn't have a great weekend in Kansas.
Yeah, but it was good enough to keep him 4 or 5 spots above the cut line there. Of course, at the top of the order, we've got Byron Hamlin, Chris Buescher holding strong in 3rd. Yeah. Again, this is a guy we have speculated that could be pretty strong throughout the whole playoffs, and he's for me, he's your dark horse candidate to if anybody's going to sneak in and steal a championship from a Byron or a Hamlin, that'd be the guy. Christopher Bell right up there, Ross Chastain in 6th, Keselowski solidly right in the middle of 14th, right? Or in 7th rather. So it's Talladega is always a game changer. So, yep.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a look at that. So, but speaking of Talladega, this is kind of fun. So let's talk about Ryan Preece. Let's talk about Ryan Preece real quick, because I've been dying to talk about this all week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Preece recently signed an extension with Stewart Haas Racing. Going to keep him on the team multi-year, so through 2024 and beyond. And they are going to do a Talladega Nights livery for Talladega. Here we are. It's roughly, I want to say that movie came out in about 2006, sometime between 2003 and 2006. So we're almost 20 years on from that film being released. And NASCAR has kind of embraced it at times and shunned it at times. But for me, anyway, I think the film was absolutely brilliant. It's got more quotable lines than a Monty Python film. And
whoa, whoa.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was going to cause.
I knew it was going to offend the Brits in the room there. So
let's not get too carried away. It's good, but yeah.
Richard, your grandmother smelled of elderberries. I'm like,
just a flesh wound, guys. Just a flesh wound.
The rabbit has razor sharp teeth.
Yeah,
razor sharp teeth. Oh my gosh! So
yeah,
Keith, would you play? I promise we weren't going to do a bunch of Monty Python quotes, right? But listen, Knights who up until recently said knee. Keith, would you roll that clip?
Stewart Haas Racing, LLC, is welcoming 2 new sponsors to the team. At the urging of Tony Stewart, who's been like a dad to me, only better, I'm naming Wonder Bread and Old Spice as the sponsors at Talladega. Woo!
All right. And all you drivers out there, if you smell a delicious, crispy smell after the race, it's not your tailpipes. It's a little bit of Preece.
Chase.
Preece and Chase. That's our nickname. Get used to hearing it.
All right, so yeah, that's kind of fun. If you smell a delicious, crispy smell after the race, that's not your tailpipe. It's a little bit of Preece and Chase. But I got to tell you, I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's neat that they talked both Wonder Bread and Old Spice into coming on board, and they replicated the liveries perfect rather than getting a different sponsor and making it sort of look like it. The only thing that's really missing there, I wish they would do the Laughing Clown malt liquor car.
Yep. And the Perrier water car.
That'd be a good one too. Yeah. So, but yeah, it'd be fun.
Get SVG to do the Perrier car, because he's, the new guy. And
yeah. New Zealanders and Frenchmen are really easy to confuse.
Yeah.
Not at all. But we don't have any French drivers, but I mean, I'm trying to,
No, but you got to put in a Perrier car. Literally, is Simon Pagenaud, because he's been compared to the Sacha Baron Cohen character plenty of times. You know what I mean? So
yeah, he has.
But yeah, that'll be fun. I don't know how they're going to fare in the race. Stewart Haas Racing has been having a bit of an off year, but at least they could have fun with this. Maybe distraction from their other issues going on. There's talk of them perhaps selling a charter. I did hear somebody refer to it as Pruitt Haas Racing rather than Stewart Haas Racing, just as a joke there. But That's tough. Yeah. So, and another off-track news.
Will Ferrell's going to be the Grand Marshal at Talladega this weekend. Is that what you said?
Is he?
No, I don't think so, but that would be good. That would
be fun. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and then if they can get John O'Reilly as well, or John C. Riley as well, that would be extra fun. I bet they can talk those guys into doing that.
Yeah, short notice. I mean, it's not like they're doing anything in Hollywood right now. The writers are just coming back, so who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. So everything's on hold. You might. Anyway, so announcement earlier today, Spire Motorsports has purchased the entire assets of Kyle Busch truck team and Kyle Busch
manufacturing.
So, and this is a dynasty in the truck series. They're the winningest team in the history of the truck series.
Not a word.
No?
Winningest. No, show me in the dictionary where it says winningest is a word.
It's a word amongst us people that watch racing. Okay.
What would be the correct word usage?
Team with the most wins.
That doesn't sound right though.
Yeah.
And winningest does?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Majority rules.
All right, so Richard, what's Spire?
In formal language, winningest is informal language, not a correct word.
Informal language, okay.
North American, there you go.
This is a podcast.
Oh.
Oh.
Like bangers and mashes formal language.
Yeah.
They're real words.
Anyway, Richard, so what's Spire up to? They've shelled out a lot of money recently, trying to up their game. And then there was another team recently who had to sell a charter. Who was that? JG or something? Or
so they bought so Spire in the last 2 weeks have spent, I think, roughly in the region of $60 million, $40 million on a charter, and $20 million. The rumor is the KBM deal is about $20 million for the factory, the land. I mean, there's like 80 acres or something down there they bought, so they may be looking to. I don't know where the Spire factory shop is at the moment, so maybe they're looking to use some of the land. But it's an interesting turn for Kyle Busch. I mean, when he took that move to Childress, he said that he's going to race Cup Series until his son's old enough to share a truck with him, which is probably, I don't know how old his son is, 10 maybe 12. So it's another
somewhere around there.
Yeah, he just won a race this weekend. So
but he's still the karting level.
Yeah,
or the quarter midgets.
So
quarters.
So obviously that's sort of gone by the wayside. Now Kyle may still maintain an interest in the team and have a guaranteed seat in that team. I don't know, but Spire bought their charter from LiveFast Motorsport, and I say that's around about the $40 million mark. The rumors are that the KBM deal's around about $20 million. So if it's to be believed that Gamebridge are bankrolling Spire now, that's a $60 million investment in a couple of weeks, and that takes some doing. There's not many NASCAR teams got that sort of cash flowing around at the moment to make that sort of investment. So obviously Spire will be, by looks of things, will be moving to a 3-car team next year in the Cup Series, and they'll be running the three trucks in the Truck Series. So they'll have not many teams, they'll be up there with, Joe Gibbs in terms of number of cars across all 3 series that they'll be running, next year. Childress obviously runs a couple in the Cup and a couple in Xfinity. But to have 6 full-time teams running under one umbrella is a pretty aggressive move by them. And, they're certainly by no stretch of the imagination a premier Chevy-backed team. You'd probably put them, obviously Hendrick, Childress are probably the main 2. Then you've got Trackhouse in there. So at best, they're probably 4th ranked amongst the Chevy teams. But this is a big play. Those three teams certainly don't have that sort of cash to throw around.
Yeah, and Trackhouse, I think, Trackhouse has had tremendous success with their program in the past, 5 years. They haven't been on the scene all that long, and maybe Spire's looking to kind of ride the coattails of what Trackhouse has done. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what transpires with all this in the next, in the coming off season. I think there's going to be some really big moves made.
Yeah, the other thing that just kind of pops in my mind here is that Andretti Global has made some statements that they like to be involved in NASCAR as well as every other racing series on the planet. Obviously the link with Gamebridge. Gamebridge is one of the owners of Andretti Global. And if this is Gamebridge putting up this money for this, you got to wonder if this is Andretti Global's way to get into NASCAR. Go ahead.
For sure.
So that's so I kind of think that's what's going on there. And I don't know if they're just trying to keep the Andretti name out of it, hush until they settle everything with the FIA and Formula One. See if they're actually going to be able to make that work. But it is interesting to see, when you hear Gamebridge out there, you automatically link that with Andretti.
I mean, it's certainly a good indicator to, on the health state of the union, if you like, of NASCAR. They've got some, there's people like Gamebridge who are obviously big players globally, prepared to put in, some serious cash. As I say, if NASCAR was as doom and gloom as some of the boomers like to make out, these multinational organizations wouldn't be putting this sort of money in. I must admit, tongue in cheek, I was a little bit surprised that they've bought this facility out of Kyle Busch Motorsports, because you were thinking, well, if Gamebridge and Andretti are looking at making a run with Spire, they'd have to do something with that big facility up in Indianapolis if they don't get their Formula One team. But by sounds of things, they're going to stay down here in North Carolina. The one little rumor snippet that I did hear is that everybody at KBM is being made to reapply for their jobs, which is a bit of a crappy way of doing things if that is the case. But I hope they do manage to retain as many people as possible, because it's a pretty good organization there, and it's a good setup.
A group of guys that have been around, and been together for quite a while. So, yeah.
2010 was when they started, and they've just celebrated their 100th victory in the Truck Series.
Years.
So it's a pretty good hit ratio there. So good to see. But again, great for the sport that this sort of money's flooding around and people are prepared to invest.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you hear a lot of gloom and doom about NASCAR, but then you see deals like this, and then CW putting up a crazy amount of money for the rights to show the Xfinity races and practices, and you're just like, okay, wow, what if I'm undervaluing that, right? Because I kind of feel like Xfinity is a pretty small property, right? But obviously, who's ever behind the CW. Which is Time Warner and AT&T are all kind of behind that, so they see the value in it. So it's interesting, very interesting. So, all right. So Lee, who do you like for Talladega then?
My heart is screaming Bubba, because he, got to root for the guy, but I'm not going to go with him. I am going to go with.
He's run well at plate races in the past. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, he's won there. I mean, granted, a lot of people say it wasn't a quote unquote true win, but Richard's like, got to go in this again. I mean, the guy won at Talladega.
We're not going to talk about Dale Senior's win that was rain shortened, are we?
Yeah, no, we can't. Yeah,
or the other, 100
million rain shortened
rain short races in the history of racing. Yeah, so
yeah. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin this week at Talladega. I think. All
right, Denny Hambone for you.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Keselowski. These guys won at Talladega. Number of times the Ford cars have been strong in the restricted play races this year. So, my other NASCAR topic I wanted to touch on today was, we hadn't heard about these for a little while, but it seemed like at Texas we had another spate of loose wheels and loose tire nuts. Kind of widespread. At least 6 or 7 teams were penalized after the race for the loose tire penalties. So, Richard, anything different going on that round?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did we just get sloppy again?
I think so, yeah. No, I haven't heard of anything different, that's for sure. It's just, yeah, can't give you an answer on that one. It was, yeah, I really don't know. I guess, you get into the playoffs, the guys are pushing the envelope a little bit, and, there's the 9.5 second pit stops want to get down to 9 seconds or whatever it may be, so who knows? But
so you're gonna chalk that up to playoff jitters, huh?
Possibly.
I
certainly haven't seen anything. Anything.
Speaking of pit stops, NASCAR's gone to the single nut, single nut hub and everything. And NASCAR's taken a lot of plays from the F1 playbook. Do you think down the road that NASCAR is going to get into doing pit stops like F1 does, where the guys are already over the wall? No,
I mean, there's one of the advantages of the way F1 does it is these guys that are at the track, the guys you see doing the pit stops are mechanics. They're, guys that work on the car. So they've got a job outside of doing the pit stops. In NASCAR, the guys that go over the wall, that is their sole job. They are pure pit stop guys, and they're expensive. They get very, very well paid for what they do. And I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, they went from 6 guys over the wall down to 5, or 7 down to 6 or something. They actually took
one guy away. Yeah,
they took one guy away. And if you think about it, per car, that's a huge saving a year. I think what you may end up seeing sooner rather than later is them going to an air jack rather than a jack man, because it's, again, removing of the guy. So you could almost do 4 or 5 guys over the wall now rather than 5 or 6. Now, there's a lot of guys would go against that because, again, it's like, the history of NASCAR, they've got Jack Mammy, yada, 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 all that sort of stuff, but whatever. But yeah, no, I don't think you'll ever see a situation where you have guys on pit road, because it's a pretty dangerous place to be. That was one of the points I wanted to sort of remember, raise. I don't know if anybody saw the Xfinity race, but one of the cars there had a trip through the grass. Excuse me for a minute.
That's you.
Sorry about that.
Bless you, buddy.
Managed to reach the mute button in time there before I deafened everybody. No, but the one of the Xfinity guys, got loose in the tri-oval there at in Texas, and skidded across the grass. Now this is real grass, and so there's zero retardation across that grass, and ended up hitting the retaining wall on the inside of the pit lane, right underneath one of the pit boxes. And if guys hadn't been paying attention, it could have been nasty. Or if guys had been in the middle of a pit stop, green flag pit stop, you'd have had absolute carnage down there.
Yeah.
So, I think there's 3 things that NASCAR has to very, very, very seriously look at. Getting rid of the grass. It's green, okay, we get it. Use this sort of high friction surfaces like they have in Formula One at places like
Dakota,
Paul Ricard, places like that. Put
painted green.
Yeah, green, high friction surfaces that will help slow the car down.
Didn't Charlotte do that? Didn't Charlotte do the infield in that high friction grass? One of the big tracks. I think one of the big tracks they were talking about that they did that.
It stops the car digging in. Not so bad on the next gen cars, but previous gen and Xfinity cars, you'll rip a splitter off in a heartbeat going through that grass. So it helps, save the cars for a relatively minor infraction. Put an external wall on pit road, so you segregate the cars between the track and the pit lane, like you see at Bristol and Martinsville and some of these short tracks. Some of these bigger tracks, Pocono, I think, has got a wall there between the track and the pit lane. So
New
put an
Hampshire
external
does.
wall there. Yeah, put
Yep.
an external wall there. And also put safer barriers in there. I mean, you can't. These are, to my mind, these are pretty low-hanging fruit, some of these things. And, somebody's going to get seriously hurt one day doing this. So they've got to be careful, I think.
Yeah, I think
agree.
another thing that I noticed about a NASCAR pit stop as opposed to a Formula One. Now, obviously, the big difference is we're not refueling in Formula One at all. The other thing is these guys are coming right off the high banks of the oval onto the pit lane. It seems like the majority of the F1 circuits, there's a little lead into the pit lane where these guys have enough time to get us slowed down, and they don't come flying onto that pit lane like you do at these oval tracks. So, and because you see, there's a lot of guys on a pit lane in a Formula One race, right? But you rarely see, an incident where somebody gets run over by a car. So not that it couldn't happen, but it just seems like they're at more of a controlled pace by the time they get within a reasonable distance of any human bodies, right? So,
yeah,
just my take. So, well, speaking of Formula One, that's a good segue. Every week, Richard, I asked you, did we have a surprise winner that wasn't Max? And the 1 week where the answer was no, you weren't here.
I wasn't here. Yeah, I wasn't here.
So let me ask you this week: did we have a surprise winner that wasn't Max?
No.
Everything
everything
now is recalibrated with the world. Max Verstappen back on top. Don't know what happened last week, but Richard, maybe you can give us some insight on the last week, because Lee and I were talking about the flexi floors and the flexi wings, and Red Bull vehemently denied that they made any changes in the car based on that rule.
We were just grabbing for straws on this one. We had no idea.
No, it was. I still struggle with it. I still struggle to understand. Fundamentally, they got the setup wrong, I think. But for a team like Red Bull to get the setup so wide of the mark and not be able to regain it, not be able to go, okay, this is where we are, this is where we need to be, was phenomenal. It was. I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm still at a loss. It was really weird. And then
there's an old saying from another classic American movie that Red Bull, not this past weekend, the other weekend, was just a little bit outside on their setups.
They were in a different film. Never mind. If we're going to do movie quotes, they're in a different scene. Never mind just outside. Damn. No, it was. I don't know. Can't put a finger on it. But then you turn up at Suzuka and Max just blows everybody away again.
Everything back to normal. Yeah, Max is 20, 30 seconds ahead of everybody else.
Yeah,
Sergio Perez nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I mean,
literally, he went off early in the race, and they actually put him back out there.
Yeah, the two guys that were really under pressure for their 2024 seats, Logan, Sargent and Checo, had disastrous races at the time of the year when they can ill afford to have a race like that. Another guy who I thought was potentially in danger, Yuki Tsunoda, they announced that a contract extension with the currently named AlphaTauri team, although the rumors are that they won't be called AlphaTauri next year. So
there's all kind of rumors floating around them. That one of the rumors focuses on Adidas being their primary sponsor.
Yeah,
read that today, but Adidas wouldn't confirm it, but they didn't deny it. So,
yep. No. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interest. There's a lot of still, even though these driver contracts are pretty well defined, I think for 2024. There's still going to be, I think, some moving parts. I think Checo is still under immense pressure in that seat. I really do. He didn't do great in Singapore, neither did Max. But it's not even Max is going to be out of a drive. But yeah, that Suzuka was a shambles for Checo. It was really bad. And coming up in Qatar in a couple of weeks or a week and a half from now. Yeah, boy, if he doesn't have a good race in Qatar, now I don't think they would put. I think the struggle for the struggle. That's the right word. The dangerous play, if you like, for Checo right now is that they've obviously announced Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda in the second team, but that still leaves Liam Lawson on the outside looking in. Now, to my money, Liam Lawson's done a fantastic job deputising for the deputy, if you like.
Yeah.
When he's come in, he's driven really, really well. I don't think anybody could have asked of any more. He's been on the pace of Yuki Tsunoda pretty quickly. So that does leave the option as if Red Bull's like, okay, Checo, you're done. The chances are they would move Danny Rick back into the main team, and that would open up Liam Lawson to take that seat in the second team. So there's certainly a path for Checo to be moved to one side, and have 4 experienced drivers in that team, or under this tutelage or stewardship of Red Bull. So yeah, there's a lot at play there, and to some extent, Logan Sargent again didn't have a great weekend. Crashed heavily in free practice. In qualifying. That resulted in the team incurring a penalty on Sunday. And he just, I think he had a couple of comings together, and it was just a really messy weekend for Logan Sargent. Again, when he can ill afford to have one. And,
I want to say I saw a graphic where, somebody figures out the dollars of crash damage per driver, and Logan Sargent is leading that. Matter of fact, on pace to break Mick Schumacher's record of crash damage in a year. So, but as far as Checo's concerned, though, I mean, the team has kind of steadfastly said that Checo's our guy for 2024. After that, it's anybody's game. But I really, you got to wonder now that the whole Liam Lawson is in the frame now, if that kind of changes that.
Well,
they theoretically can demote Checo to reserve driver and say, so you're still under contract, you still work for us, you're just not driving the car.
I mean, if you look at it, you put it in the cold light of day, Max would be leading the Constructors' Championship by himself. Checo, they don't need Checo fundamentally.
No, not at all.
But if you had a tighter season, for want of a better word, a season where it was a battle between Red Bull and a Ferrari or a Mercedes or a McLaren or whoever, you need the number 2 driver up there, and he just hasn't done it. He just hasn't been there when they've needed him there.
Right. And at this point, I mean, he had earlier in the season, he had Alonso chomping at the bit for the second place in points. Now he's got Lewis Hamilton breathing down his neck, and it looks like Hamilton might get that done and deny Red Bull a 1-2 in the championship. Something they've not able to do yet. I mean, despite all their championships, between Vettel and Max, and they've not had a 1-2 yet. So,
no, it's a as I say, I think they've got away with it this year because the car has been so dominant. And as I say, Max would be he's 95 points ahead of Mercedes, which is ridiculous when you think about it. It's not a good position to be in. As I said, they've got away with it this year, but if you make it a competitive season where you have 2 or 3 teams competing, it would really put them on the back foot, and I think it does leave him pretty vulnerable.
Yeah, if you look at what's the picture going to look like next year, right? Because you've got McLaren improving week in and week out. Those guys are regular visitors to the podium now, right? Ferrari has won a race, this year, and Mercedes is creeping right back up there. Aston Martin still kind of hanging tough up in there, not quite as good as they were last year, but these guys are catching up to Red Bull, and when we get into next year, you're going to want a solid number 2. I mean, whether or not that guy is Danny Ricciardo, I don't know, but it doesn't look like it's Sergio Perez.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we off to next?
Qatar.
Qatar. Is that this coming weekend, or we got a week off?
We got a week off.
All right. So we'll talk about that next week. So let's move our attention to the INDYCAR series, where they released their 2024 schedule a little later than usual, but they were, dotting some I's and crossing some T's and those sort of things. But obviously the big news is that Texas is not on the schedule, as we kind of speculated a couple weeks ago. Will Texas return in 2025? They say it might. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that once it's gone for good. Kind of like that Richmond race that got canceled for COVID. They said, well, we'll try again next year. And we've never heard anything more about that. So Milwaukee back on the schedule. Labor Day weekend. Not sure how great an idea that is, because they're competing against the Wisconsin Badgers opening football game that weekend, which generally draws 90,000 home fans to the game there. So that's a big chunk of folks. But doubleheader, one race Saturday, one race Sunday, both full points. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think the promoters of the race are Penske Entertainment and the Milwaukee State Fair Association. So, people have been begging to have Milwaukee back. They better freaking go to the race. You know what I mean? If they want to keep it, go to the race. That's all I can tell you, people. More ovals, but go to the races. The reason we don't have ovals is because y'all not at the races. So, that being said, the other addition is, of course, thermal non-points race early in the season between St. Pete and Long Beach. Kind of an all-star race, no points affair, which I find odd. During the regular season to have a no points race. Wouldn't have been my thought to do that, but that's just what they're going to do. We'll see how that works out. I feel like it's going to be a good event, because when the cars tested a thermal in the spring, cars got around the track reasonably well. Looked like it's a good place to hold a race. So I guess this is probably an audition for a points race. But again, they kind of lack the infrastructure for a full on, 30, 40,000 people there kind of race. It's going to be, more of the owners of thermal there. They're going to make some tickets available to the public. I don't know how many. My guess would be less than a couple of thousand. So, but we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, there's the gaping 3-week hole in the schedule in July and August, which you'll find the same gaping hole in NASCAR schedule when NBC is utilizing all of their networks for coverage of the Olympics. So hard to compete with that. I want to say in 2020, the Olympics brought like $4 billion in advertising revenue to NBC, some kind of crazy number like that. So they're going to say, you just have your little IndyCar race here in a couple weeks, and we'll get back to you. So, other than that, not a whole lot of other IndyCar news. Still waiting on word from Roman Grosjean of what his plans are. The hot rumor has him going to Coin. Kyle Kirkwood re-signed for multi-year, a couple more seasons with Andretti Global. No reason why they should leave him. No reason why he should leave them. The guys that have had a pretty good sophomore year, won a couple races. So, but that pretty much sums up the IndyCar news, unless you guys have heard something I haven't.
Nope.
All right. So Lee, you're generally our NHRA guy.
That is true.
But Richard, you went to the NHRA event in Charlotte.
I did, this past weekend.
There. So
the floor is yours, kind sir.
You guys take us through it, and maybe let's start with this. What's Tony Stewart up to? Get himself disqualified.
Something an out of spec magneto. Lee, you can probably give a bit more information. I didn't find out about that until I was actually at the track on Sunday. But I don't know if you can give some more information on that.
Yep. So he got post race, post one of his passes. They, I don't know if NHRA saw data from the real time displays that they get. Same things that the teams get. Might have saw something in there, but went and inspected and found a magneto was out. And we were talking before the show. I was talking with Frank about this. So these cars, they're aspirated cars. They don't run a throttle body. They're carbureted. There's no engine control units like we have in modern day cars. It's your old grandpa's car technology. It's got a distributor cap. It's got points. It's got plugs and a magneto. And so they found something in the ignition system, and I said it was probably something like a distributor cap, because all they really do for the alcohol cars versus the top fuel cars is they just change there's more spark going to the engine. The fuel's obviously different, but the amount of energy into the cylinders through the spark plugs is a little greater too, to the best of my knowledge from what I've been told. So I don't know if maybe a magneto got swapped out. They're the same components between the two. Maybe they just got swapped out. Maybe one got stuck in there and it just gave them a little bit extra. I don't think it was accidental. I think, who knows? You don't do anything. You can't do anything unless you push that, try to bend the rules a little bit. So, Tony ended up not getting DQ'd, no points. Hurt his championship a little bit for the week, but I think the team learned a valuable lesson, and they'll bounce right back next week and go from there. So again, it's just, how many teams in NASCAR have gotten fined and disqualified for violations of the rules, and they turn around and win the race the next weekend. So
yeah, all of them.
Yep. Everything.
Probably with the same thing on the car that got them disqualified the week before.
Yeah. Yep. So,
but it was a great event to go to, and I've been to this 3 or 4 times now, down at the ZMAX down in Charlotte, and it's a great facility. But God, those things are loud. You don't realize how loud they are, and it is an assault on your senses in every possible way. It's not just the noise, obviously, and the vision, but you can feel it in your loins. It really does make you, vibrate through your chest. It's like back in the day going to a nightclub or something, and you can just, it makes your whole body vibrate. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Loved every minute of it. And this time I actually managed to get down into the pit area, which I'd never really been around before. And one thing that really struck me was, obviously between each run they pretty much rebuild the engine and the transmission between each run. And then they'll obviously do some sort of fire up routine to to check everything. And I mean, if you stood near one of these things, the exhaust gases, it burns your nose and your mouth and your eyes. And oh my good Lord, these things are nasty. They really are. They are, they're vicious. And I'd forgotten what that was like. And my wife said, "Hey, let's go stand right behind one." I thought, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's go stand right behind one. Yeah, good idea." Oh my God, it was it hits you. It hits you pretty hard. But they were impressive machines. They really truly are. And I'd recommend anybody that hasn't been to see one, go and see one, go and experience it, because it's different from normal racing. It's a different experience, but it'll you think going to a NASCAR race or an IMSA race or an INDYCAR race or whatever it is, they're impressive. These will blow you away. They really, literally, if you stood too close to the damn thing.
Yeah. Yep. Were you blowing snot when you stood behind it, when the methane? Yeah, you just nose runs and your eyes.
Sinuses are gone. If you've got COVID, go and stand behind that damn thing. It'll kill it in a heartbeat. Yeah. I've had a cure for COVID. Easy.
Yeah. Yep.
Stand
Yeah.
behind the methanol engine.
So Lee, who were the big winners this week? Who's advancing in the NHRAs in their playoff season as well?
Doug Coletta he had a quiet regular season. He was kind of just flying under the radar, but he's pulling a Scott Dixon like I've never seen. He's won 2 in a row in the Top Fuel dragsters. So we've only had 2 races in the championship, and he's won both of them for Top Fuel. So that's really good. Scott Coletta's been around for a long, long, long time. Not as long as John Force, but he's been around.
The Coletta family. That's a very familiar name. Yep.
Yep. They've been around motorsports. His dad was a pioneer in the industry back in the 50s and 60s, and he's been in it since the 80s. Super great guy. He pulled out a win this weekend. In Funny Car, we saw Bob Tasca the third. Bob's an outstanding driver. There's no doubt about it. That dude, he grew up here in New England. I watched him race at New Hampshire when I was a kid. He was a kid. We're both pretty much the same age. He's a fantastic driver. He pulled out a win this weekend. In Pro Stock, we saw Greg Anderson. Greg is another. I want to call them the old timers that won this weekend, because they're all just, they've been in the sport 20, 30 years, all 3 of them. Greg Anderson pulled out a win, and for a long time I wasn't a Greg Anderson fan, but a couple years ago, Greg had a lot of problems, and Greg is actually very instrumental in a lot of the safety aspect of that goes into NHRA, especially the seat. So Greg had an incident and actually had to have heart surgery a couple years ago when he stepped away from racing and helped build a new safety seat for all the drivers to run in pro class all the way up to the Top Fuel. So he's pretty instrumental in the industry as far as safety, and it was nice to see him get a W. He's not in the chase, but it was good to see him win. And then Gage Harana in Pro Stock Bikes, like Gage I think he's got it wrapped up. I think all he has to do is just show up at the next race and he wins. So good race. I totally forget where we're going to next, so don't even ask. I'm embarrassed. I can't even remember.
All right, so we'll talk about that next week then. So one topic we skipped over, Jessica Hawkins testing a Formula One car for Aston Martin. Jessica from the now defunct Formula W series. So Richard, did you get a chance to catch this story here? She was running a 2021 spec Aston Martin I think at Hungary perhaps.
Yeah, a couple of days ago. Yeah, I saw she'd done some laps out there, which is good to see. Obviously, how that fits in with Aston Martin's driver development program and reserve program, because I think they can call Stoffel Van Dorn as their regular reserve driver. And,
right.
Obviously, we think Aston Martin's posturing to maybe get away from that Mercedes deal or become a little bit more independent from them. So. It's great to see more people in the drive, get a chance to drive these cars and put themselves in the shop window for, maybe not necessarily Formula One drive, but other high profile series. We've seen Jamie Chadwick come over and compete in the Indy NXT series, and probably been a little bit disappointing, I think it's fair to say. Not maybe had the results we expected given her dominance of the Formula W program, but hopefully some doors remain open for her and some of these other women that have done so well in this, in these series. See where it can lead for them.
Yeah. So interesting. So we'll see a couple of more kind of rookies or people gunning for test drives. I know that Pato Award has got going to run the 2023 spec McLaren in free practice 1 when we get to the season ender, so that'll be decent to see. And I think he's run the older spec cars in the past. It's neat that Formula One keeps these older spec cars around for people to test. Demonstration.
Well, with the regulations now, they have to. Yeah, with the regulations now, they have to. So, there's very little opportunity for some of these young guys to get in a modern car. You've got, I think each team has to run a amateur driver for, or not an amateur, sorry. rookie driver, non full-time driver for 2 free practice 1 sessions throughout the season.
Right.
And then you've got like the young driver test at Abu Dhabi postseason, and there's another one thrown in at Silverstone and the like. So, it does open some opportunities, but it's not the same as a race weekend, if you like.
Yeah, these young driver tests are usually using the older spec cars, correct?
Yes, they have to be.
But if you're running like free practice 1,
it's a current car.
You're right there in the current car. Yep. And if you're Brad Pitt, you're in a Formula 2 car.
Yeah.
Formula 2 car dressed to look like a Formula 1 car. Yeah. Funny, we haven't heard anything on that whole thing after the whole British Grand Prix. But
there's been a couple of
they're still out there.
Where were they?
They were the movies, so
they could have been in Singapore, I think, or Monza. Definitely one of those 2 they were at filming again. But I think all the hype died down post Silverstone, so they haven't.
Yeah, when they found out they weren't actually, running on the grid with the Formula 1 cars, right? As was I don't know who floated that story to begin with. That was totally off base, but yeah, good stuff. Something because it's on the internet, it must be true. So,
oh yeah.
All right, so we got just a couple of minutes.
My name will be good.
Just a couple of minutes left. So, is there anything we neglected to mention? Anything on your minds you wanted to bring up? You got about 2-3 minutes to kill here.
No, I think it's been. I think we've had, obviously with the INDYCAR season winding down now. That does leave us open a little bit short. But we've got a pretty exciting climax coming to the NASCAR Cup Series, and the Xfinity and trucks are all pretty close. Sammy Smith announced that he's leaving the Toyota family in the Xfinity Series, and he's going over to Junior Motorsport to replace Josh Berry, who will be moving up to Stewart Haas Racing. So a few little maneuvers going around there. Brandon Jones has announced that he's staying at Junior Motorsports as well. So yeah, a few moves in the lower categories of the Cup ladder. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. Still a few rumors, especially Stewart Haas Racing. I think there's going to be some big things coming out of them. Not necessarily in a positive light over the next few weeks and months. I do worry. Neither Tony or Gene seem to go to any races anymore. They seem to have, I don't want to say lost interest. That's disrespectful to them, of course. But
Tony's publicly said that drag racing makes racing fun again.
Yeah,
which by extension means it's no fun for him to be in the pits at a NASCAR race anymore.
Yeah, well, his girlfriend's not in the pits at the NASCAR race, is she? So
well, no, she's not.
Wife.
Sorry. What about the girl? Oh no. No, but it's it is a real shame when you consider where that team was, 3 or 4 years ago with Kevin winning the championship in his first year with the team, and the move to Ford hasn't really panned out for them, I don't think.
No, I think that was a bad move.
They've no disrespect, promoted some pretty average drivers. There's talk that if Eric Amarola does retire at the end of the season, then Cole Custer will take that drive. And and again, no disrespect to him, we've seen what he's able to do in that organization, and he didn't dig up any trees. I certainly can't imagine Josh Berry, doing anything similar. He did okay at Hendrick when he was filling in for Chase and Alex Bowman, but he didn't do anything phenomenal. So if you look at the light or potential lineup
at Hendrick, they're throwing Josh Berry in the one of the best prepared cars in the series as well.
Yeah.
So what? And he didn't exactly like you said, set the world on fire. Now you're throwing him here to the couple of good races. Yeah. So
yeah. But you look at the potential driver lineup for SHR next year, and you've got Josh Berry, Cole Custer, Ryan Preece, and Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, I know.
It's not great.
Yeah, Briscoe's the only race winner of those.
Yeah, it's not a great lineup, and certainly historically Ford haven't podied up the same amount of cash that Toyota and Chevy have in the NASCAR series. So, and with the likes of Roush and Penske, obviously seemingly hitting, being the premier teams in that relationship, you do wonder where it leaves Stewart Haas. And, there's rumors of them going back to Chevy, but, we've seen with Spire investing heavy in Chevy, and, they would be the probably fifth team in Chevy's arsenal. They are pretty vulnerable right now. And I don't think they're going to go anywhere drastic in the next year or two, but it does, leave some question marks over their long-term viability, I think, without that driver lineup.
Yeah, it sort of feels like the beginning of the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do get that sort of feeling. Unfortunately, it's horrible to say. As I say, you go back 4 or 5 years, and they had a pretty stout driver lineup in some of those cars, or at least a very marketable driver lineup. Anyway,
yeah, they had Harvick. They had Tony. Tony was still driving.
Yeah, Danica bought money.
Eric Almirola's not. He's really good. He qualifies good. He has great qualifying runs. He starts the races off pretty decent. He just seems like he falters, and just can't.
Yeah, but he's retired 2 times.
Yeah, just can't get in the winner's circle.
At least once. So.
All right, so that does take us to the end of our hour. So I want to thank you, Richard, for filling that time. Thank you, Lee, for joining us. Keith Hayes, our producer, Sinister One Productions. Want to thank you. Want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I want to thank Xbox Forza Motorsport, Luis Torres of Multimedia, the Ferrari Film, Alzheimer's Association. I want to thank Facebook Live, YouTube, and Spotify. But most of all, I want to thank you folks that tuned in and watched us tonight. Until next week, good night.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Code Sinister One production.